What do we mean by caregivers? Caregivers are family members and friends who often provide unpaid care to their loved ones who have a medical or mental health condition. As of 2020, there were 53 million adults providing unpaid care to caregivers in the United States. Caregivers provide $470 billion of unpaid services. That's a huge price tag. And this number has most definitely gone up. So this is a big number. I can't wrap my head around this very much. So I'll give you a context. This rivals the market cap of these major Fortune 100 companies that we know very well, which means that if caregivers were a company, they would be a Fortune 100 company. Caregivers are crucial to the self-management success in chronic and serious conditions. You can think of your own lives. You are probably a caregiver to somebody, or you're receiving care from somebody. Caregivers may provide emotional support like coping, may provide instrumental or practical support, which can range anywhere from running errands to providing support around bathing and dressing. More and more caregivers are being asked to provide complex medical care to people at home, like doing wound care or providing injections. Caregivers also provide patients with care coordination by coordinating various specialty care teams and advocate for patients so that they get high quality care. It's probably not surprising that this comes at a great emotional and financial cost to caregivers. Caregiver burden is very common, and it's determined by the number of hours and the intensity of care. So for dementia, for example, people may provide on an average 20 to 40 hours of care a week, which is a half to full-time job. There's also a financial cost. On average, caregivers pay about $7,000 out of their own pockets to help somebody care for their conditions, for things like transportation or supporting for copays. For certain conditions like cancer or rare diseases that are more expensive to manage, this number is significantly higher. This is a report that came out last year, and these are pre-pandemic data, where there's a 10 million increase in the number of caregivers just in 5 years. Now 1 in 5 adults within the United States identifies as a caregiver. And caregiving is becoming harder. More Americans are caring for more than one person, reporting worse health, reporting difficulties coordinating care. They're also sharing that they've had at least one financial impact because of their caregiving roles and impacts on their professional careers. And this situation is about to get worse. Only about 10 years ago, there was about 7 caregivers available to adults 80 years or above in the United States. But in about less than 10 years from now, this number is projected to drop to 4 caregivers per an adult who's 80 years or above, which means that the amount of care being provided is now more concentrated, likely leading to worse outcomes. So if you are a caregiver, what can you do? Well, you can start by taking care of yourself. We often feel guilty when we do not feel like providing care, whether it's care for medical or mental health conditions, or even just caring for young children. That's okay. It's okay to feel guilty about it. Create a schedule that allows you to take breaks. Get help from other family members, friends, and even nursing aides. Among South Asians, there's a reluctance and stigma to obtaining home health care or using services like respite or long-term care. It's very important that these get added as options when needed. It often helps to talk with people like you if you're in this situation. But if you start feeling that you're more depressed, stressed, or burned out, definitely talk to your primary care provider or a mental health professional who can help you. There's also really great resources out there. These slides will be made available to you, so you can find these resources, or you can email me. I'm happy to share. These are some really great resources that also list other resources within these links. There's also a great organization in India called Caregivers Saathi, and they have a Facebook page as well. I highly recommend you join them. They really push out some excellent talks and materials. Switching to a population that's relevant to this crowd is caregiving among South Asians. Why should we focus on South Asians? South Asia comprises these 7 countries: India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. There are 1.9 billion South Asians worldwide. 5.4 million South Asians live in the United States, and it's the most rapidly growing demographic in Santa Clara County, which is where we're located. Across the 7 countries, there are 419 spoken languages, and all major world religions are represented. Despite this diversity, there are shared cultural experiences that may have special salience in navigating serious illnesses. These are things like multiple family members who are involved in their care, expecting women to take on more of the caregiving responsibilities, and stigmas around conditions like cancer, which delays care sometimes fatally. Yet the South Asian experiences remain unknown and hidden within the healthcare system. Caregiving in South Asian cultures is culturally determined. South Asians are collectivist. We prioritize the needs of the group over the needs of the individual. There are motivations and expectations that are culturally embedded. So while in the Western culture, a lot of the caregiving is determined by love and affection, in the South Asian culture, often the motivation is family responsibilities and expectations based on intergenerational roles and gender roles. So you may have noticed that in the US report, 61% of caregivers are women. In India, 80% of caregivers are women. Another thing that makes it complicated is that we believe in the concept of seva, which means that taking care of somebody is similar to an act of devotion. So providing care can be seen as a privilege, making it really difficult for people to share a negative experience or feel guilty if they feel burned out or stressed. As people navigate, especially the healthcare system in the United States, they might run into barriers around health literacy and language. And the healthcare system is not designed to handle this cultural context. Caregiver needs is vastly understudied in South Asian countries. There are no national representative data sets that we can use. This study, which is a few hundred people, found that 67% of caregivers spend 10 or more hours caring for their patient, and more than 50% reported depression, especially if they cared for a spouse, lived with patients, had additional responsibilities beyond the healthcare, and provided at least 10 hours of care a day. And in this particular study, everybody was at least moderately stressed, and 18% were severely stressed. So we need robust strategies to support caregivers. We need changes in the way we deliver healthcare. We need robust national policies. I'm thrilled to see that the Biden administration has made caregiving an important part of their infrastructure plan. We also need scientifically sound programs and approaches, as well as develop culturally attuned approaches that reflect the diversity of experiences as we manage chronic and serious conditions. And finally, we're going to need strong implementation strategies and population and public health strategies to improve the uptake of these programs.